Tonight, I want to talk to you about something so baffling, so upside down, it makes you stop and say, what in God's name did we just watch? This week, we didn't just see a political oddity. We witnessed a political earthquake, a tectonic shift under our feet. The moment Donald Trump suddenly, out of nowhere, started praising the New York mayor-elect, the same man he and MAGA spent months attacking. They dragged him through the mud, called him every name possible, painted him as the nightmare face of the Democratic Party, and then one meeting, one Oval Office photo op. Trump walks out saying, I think he's different. We're going to help him. Good day for New York. Come on, folks. That's not a shift. That's a detonation. Pure political opportunism dipped in hypocrisy and malarkey. Why does this matter? Not for pundits or Twitter warriors. It matters for you, for middle-class families trying to survive. This moment exposed something core about Trump, the emptiness at the center of what he stands for. For nearly a year, MAGA world smeared this mayor-elect, calling him radical, dangerous socialist. Their fear factory silver bullet for the midterms. Then Trump meets Donnie, shakes his hand, smiles for cameras, and flips the script. But the real bombshell came when reporters asked him about all the attacks. Trump shrugged and said, you say things in campaigns. Think about that. He admitted his campaign words mean nothing, not truth, not principle. Just disposable lines he throws away once they stop benefiting him. My father used to say, don't tell me what you value, show me your budget. Well, Trump just showed us he values nothing but himself. His word, worthless. His promises, temporary. His attacks, strategic fiction. And he didn't just undermine himself, he torched his own movement. But before we get to the midterms, we need to talk about Donnie, because he stood firm. Observers said Donnie compromised nothing. He didn't retract calling Trump a fascist. He didn't soften. He walked in respectful, prepared, and walked out without surrendering a single principle. That's leadership. That's integrity. Sure, maybe he was polite behind closed doors, but if he'd buttered Trump up in any real way, Trump would have bragged loudly. He didn't, because Donnie didn't fold, and this is why it's seismic. MAGA's election strategy relies on smearing Democrats as extremists. Fear-mongering is their main playbook. But in one breath and one photo op, Trump erased their key attack. He basically announced all that ugly stuff we said, just campaign talk. That admission pulled the mask off month after month of rhetoric. It exposed the fiction. Fox News, House Republicans, far-right influencers. They watched their central argument evaporate, their silver bullet dissolved on live TV. For Democrats, Hakeem, Chuck, every down-ballot candidate, this is a political gift. Because without the fear narrative, MAGA has nothing consistent to run on. They can't point to immigration raids, Americans hate them. They can't point to prices. They can't point to peace. Trump was dropping bombs every other week. Their whole plan was resting on Donnie, and Trump pulled the plug. Let's talk about Elise Stefanik, because she was hit hardest. Trump didn't just validate Donnie. He basically admitted she didn't believe her own attacks either. He threw her under the bus instantly. That's what happens when your loyalty is tied to someone with none. And remember, Donnie hasn't governed one day yet. Trump's embrace isn't a moral awakening. It's convenience, ego. Tomorrow, if crime ticks up, Trump will call him a communist again. He turns on a dime. He always has. Chaos is his oxygen. Consistency is his kryptonite. And that brings us to why this is happening. Trump is vulnerable. Senators are telling him no. His grip is slipping. His base is confused. And then comes Donnie, a rising political force who conquered New York with record turnout, a city Trump has obsessed over since childhood. He feels that, for him, this wasn't politics. It was ego gravity. Game recognizes game, but only when game benefits him. And this whole spectacle revealed something. MAGA was never about principle, only performance. Trump admitted it himself. You say things in campaigns. If Democrats don't use that clip nonstop, they're asleep at the wheel. This wasn't just a weird blip. It was the mask falling off, a confession in bright lights. For Trump, politics is a game. For the American people, for families struggling with costs, healthcare, rent, this isn't a game. It's their future, and we deserve leaders whose words mean something. Leaders with integrity. Because if we lose truth, we lose trust. And if we lose trust, we lose the foundation of our democracy. Most people still have no idea what's coming next. Trump's latest announcement isn't about politics, it's about power. Power that could reshape the economy, the job market, even your retirement. So let's break down what he truly signaled. The part Washington insiders picked up instantly and why even his critics are quietly bracing for the chain reaction. This move will unleash Let's start with what he actually said, because buried inside those words is a much bigger story. The headlines completely missed what he said on camera. Sounded calm, almost routine, the kind of polished statement politicians give when they know millions are watching. But if you listen closely, really closely, there was a subtle shift in tone, a tightening in his language, a choice of phrasing that was anything but accidental. And that's where everything begins, because that one shift changes the entire landscape. For months, people inside his own party had been whispering about pressure building behind the scenes, tension in private meetings, advisors arguing over strategy, donors demanding clarity, but none of it spilled into the public until now. And the moment those carefully coded words left his mouth, every insider instantly understood this wasn't a message. It was a warning shot. And the ripple effect was immediate. Staff phones started lighting up, reporters scrambled to interpret the signal, and rival camps went into rapid response mode. You could almost feel the temperature shift in Washington, because when a veteran player breaks the script and steps out of line, it never happens by accident. It means something bigger is already in motion, something people aren't prepared for. The real question is, why now? Why choose this exact moment to drop a hint heavy enough to shake the room? Was it frustration, strategy, pressure, or something deeper? Something that's been brewing quietly and privately, far from cameras and press releases, because timing like this is never random. It's deliberate. And in politics, timing is everything. Behind the scenes, several factions have been positioning themselves for an upcoming shift that almost no one outside the bubble has noticed. Policy battles were just the surface. Beneath it all was a slow fight for influence, for direction, for control of what comes next. And his statement didn't just expose that struggle, it accelerated it. That's why critics aren't celebrating, they're preparing, because they know what happens when someone with his experience signals a pivot. Old alliances crack, new alliances form, and the entire hierarchy begins to rearrange itself. People who looked untouchable last week suddenly look vulnerable, and people you never expected to rise start moving into position. What makes this moment even more explosive is how publicly subtle, yet privately loud it was. To the average viewer, it was just another speech. But to insiders, it was a coded announcement that a storm is forming. And storms in politics don't stay quiet for long. They build, they spread, and then they break wide open. You could almost hear the gears turning across Washington. Analysts rereading transcripts, campaign teams updating talking points, lobbyists placing quiet calls. Because when someone with real institutional memory hints that the ground is shifting, everyone scrambles to get out from under falling debris or grab a piece of whatever comes next. And here's the part the public hasn't seen yet. His words weren't just about policy. They were about power. Power moving, power changing hands, power slipping away from some and gravitating toward others. This is the kind of moment where careers are made or destroyed, where narratives are rewritten, and where the next chapter of national politics is silently drafted in back rooms. So as the headlines chase the surface story, the real players are watching the deeper tremor he just sent through the system, because this wasn't an accident. It wasn't a slip. It was a signal of what's coming. And once a signal like that is released, there's no putting it back in the box. The next moves are already unfolding. We're just waiting to see who blinks first.